See what I mean? The upper cutoff to that beam pattern is so sharp that you would have no idea there was a fence only 60 feet ahead unless you knew that there was a fence only 60 feet ahead. Now, granted, you shouldn't be driving through a field at high speed in the middle of the night, but I think you get my point. So one of the questions that I see on the Jeep forums all the time is, should I buy the LED light package from the factory for my Jeep, whether it be a Wrangler JL or a Gladiator JT? Same difference. People want to know, is it worth the $1,000 or $1,300 in my case that it costs to upgrade your LED lighting package, upgrade to the LED lighting package on one of these Jeeps? Well, I'll give you my opinion on it, and of course this is just an opinion. I had the Gladiator with the halogen lights, and this one obviously has the premium LED light package. And when I had the one with the halogen housings, I upgraded the bulbs. Now, I know what you're going to say. If you get the factory package, all of the lights are LED, and that's true, and that's a big deal. I mean, the turn signals, the tail lights, everything is LED. When you get this premium, they call it the premium LED light package. Now, there is another LED light package you can get from the factory, like on the Sports, for example. I don't think it gives you quite as much content as this package, but for the sake of this argument, let's just focus on the forward lighting, the headlights and the fog lights. That's what really matters here. So let's just talk about that. You get that upgraded to LED in either one of those factory packages. So anyway, I had the Gladiator with the halogens. I upgraded the bulbs to LED bulbs, and this time I decided to try out the factory upgrade. And the results are kind of interesting, actually. So when you're talking about forward lighting, your headlights and your fog lights, there's really a couple of different categories or criteria, I guess you could say, that you're rating your light output. The first one obviously is the brightness, how much light are you putting out there? And the second one is the beam pattern, where is the light going? Now, what I have noticed is that on the factory LED light package, the cutoff from, the lights going out and you've got this razor sharp cutoff, okay? That cutoff is really fine. I mean, it's razor sharp. It's the best way you can put it. It goes from daylight to nothing. I mean, it just completely cuts off above that line. You can't see anything. So the good thing about that is obviously you're not scattering out light. There's not a lot of glare out there. And so oncoming traffic's not going to be mad at you. The bad thing about that is it's kind of weird psychologically, when you're going down the road. I don't know about you, but this is the way I am. When you're driving down the road at night, especially if you're on a rural state road, maybe there's some curves or some hills, maybe there's a row of trees on both sides or utility poles or whatever. You're focused on what's going on right in front of the truck, but your brain wants to also read ahead a little bit too. If that makes any sense. The light output in front of the truck is where you're focused, but at the same time, it's almost like your peripheral vision, your awareness of what's going on, wants to have a bigger picture than that too. So your brain kind of wants to read ahead a little bit also. And with this factory LED having such an intensely sharp cutoff, it's really kind of weird. It took me a long time to get used to it, and to be honest, I'm really not used to it yet, because the field of light that it puts out is all you can see. I mean, above that cutoff, you see nothing. It's just pitch black. And it's kind of weird. I mean, if something were to run into your path while you're driving down the road, a child or an animal or whatever, you don't have any time to react, because you will not see it until it gets underneath that cutoff that these projection style housings, produce. So your brain doesn't have any ability to kind of see ahead, if that makes any sense. And I really don't like that, to be honest with you. On the LED bulbs that I put in the halogen housings, by the way, I'm talking about quality bulbs, not the cheap junk you find on eBay or Amazon or whatever. I'm talking about going to an actual vendor that specializes in LED bulbs, like Headlight Revolution or someplace like that. I'm not sponsored by any of these places, but if you go to some place like that where you can get quality bulbs, big difference. And that's what we're talking about here. So like the Supernova V4, the real Supernovas, not the knockoffs, the GTR Lighting Ultra 2, you know, things like that. Those bulbs are a couple $100 for a pair of them, but they are super high quality. They're made for that application to put them in the halogen housings, and they do a great job. So when I did that on the other Gladiator that I had, I still had a sharp cutoff. You know, it didn't throw a whole bunch of light everywhere. I never got flashed by oncoming traffic. The beam patterns were amazing, but it was a little bit more of a gradual cutoff, if that makes any sense. So there was a little bit of light going out ahead of where the cutoff was, and a little bit of light going out to the sides. So not enough to really call it glare, but it just didn't, it wasn't like it just got cut off. You know, there was a little bit of light being cast out. So my brain could kind of read ahead, you know, like when you're driving down the road, it's more comfortable. You know, it's less disconcerting because you can kind of see what's ahead also. But the main beam pattern was still down where it was supposed to be. And like I said, I never got flashed by oncoming traffic. And that to me was better. So when it comes to beam pattern, where the light's going, you know, how it helps you to see where you're going, I have to give the point to the aftermarket upgrade. I really do. I mean, it's kind of neat how these projection style lights have such a sharp cutoff. It kind of looks cool, but functionally, I just don't like it, can't get used to it, and I don't think it's as safe, to be honest. So I'm gonna have to give the point there to the aftermarket upgrade. So the other thing is the brightness, and we don't even need to discuss that. The aftermarket upgrade bulbs blow this away. The factory LEDs are bright. They are definitely brighter than the factory halogen bulbs, no question about it. But when you compare this factory LED headlight to the halogen headlight with a quality LED aftermarket bulb in it, it's no contest. The aftermarket bulb blows it away. The last ones that I ran in the Jeep were the Supernova V4s, the real ones, by the way, not the knockoffs. But I've also ran the GTR Lighting Ultra 2s in the Ram. Both of those bulbs I think are pretty similar as far as light output. They're really close to one another. They're about the same price, somewhere around a couple $100 for a pair. And those things are just as bright as the noonday sun. I mean, they blow this away, this factory output. So as far as, you know, brightness, how much light's going out there, you can't beat the aftermarket upgrade. It's definitely the way to go. So surprisingly enough, you know, as far as forward lighting is concerned, if I had my choice between getting the halogen housings and then just upgrading the bulbs on my own, and on the other hand, paying the big money for this LED upgrade, I would go with the cheaper option. I would get the standard halogens and then just go to Headlight Revolution or someplace like that and buy a good set of LED bulbs. That's what I would do. More light output, a beam pattern that you're more used to. I mean, you just can't beat it. So why did I get the LEDs from the factory this time? Well, the thing about this is, obviously, like we talked about a minute ago, all of the lights are LED. Turn signals, tail lights, everything is LED when you get this package, which is kind of cool. It's factory integrated, so you don't have to program it, you know. So if you buy a Jeep that has halogen lights and you put LED bulbs in there, you're gonna have to have some way to program the body control module so it can see that it's got LED bulbs in there, because the way that the electricity is sent down the wiring to the bulb is a little different with the LEDs. So if you just throw in LED bulbs and don't do any programming, sometimes you can have issues. They blink or they just go off and won't work at all. You know, so if you get it from the factory, obviously it's all set up and ready to go. You don't have to worry about that. Factory warranty on all this stuff, that's kind of nice too. So the factory integration, you know, there's something to be said for that. And a lot of guys just like the convenience of it. You know, something to be said for that, no doubt about it. And you know, the other thing about it is it just looks cool. You know, the factory projection style housings, they've got those halos, which look awesome for daytime running lights. And you know, from just a physical appearance standpoint, they look really great. And let's face it, some guys just want their Jeeps to look cool. So that's definitely a bonus. So I mean, there's definitely some pros here with the factory setup, no doubt about it. But just in terms of driving down a dark road in the middle of winter, you know, if you're just talking about that, you know, performance, I don't think that the $1,300 LED upgrade is worth it. Just my opinion. So you can see the factory halos for daytime running lights, and they do look super cool, especially when it's dark outside or getting dark outside. If it really gets dark, obviously your lights are going to come on, but as it's getting to be dusk, you can kind of see the halos and they look cool. Now you can get some aftermarket full assemblies that have halos in them like this. There's all kinds of options for these things, but I didn't want to get into all of that because then you're starting to really, I mean, it's just not really an apples to apples conversation at that point. If you're going to spend that kind of money and change out the entire housing, then why not just get the factory stuff at that point, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, they look cool, and that's something that a lot of guys really like. Same thing with the tail lights. You have this really nice rectangular shaped light, and then of course all your brake function and everything is in the middle. If you look really close here, of course the camera's not going to pick it up, but it actually says Jeep Performance LED down there at the bottom of the housing. So the tail lights are even pretty awesome too. So is it a good value? You know, that's a word that you hear come up a whole lot when you look at these Jeep packages and options that you can get on the Wrangler and the Gladiator. Is it a good value? Are you getting a lot for the money? With the lighting package, that one's out for debate. I mean, it's really kind of up to the individual. Personally, I don't think the value is really there. I checked my window sticker, by the way, just to get the exact cost. It was $1,365. That's what I paid for the LED lighting upgrade on this truck. On the sticker, it lists the headlights, the fog lights, and the tail lights, but we know that you get a few more LEDs on there with that package as well. So is it a good value? I don't think so, but you guys can make your own decision. There are some packages on these Jeeps that I think are a really good value. I mean, if you're going to get a gasoline model, the Max Tow package is an awesome value. You know, it started off at $1,000. It's gone up a little bit over time, you know, but all that you get in that package, pretty amazing. You know, the wide track axles, the 410 gear ratio, a much higher listed payload and towing rating, which is something that you can't add to a truck later. I mean, you just get a lot of good value in that package for the money, you know. So there are some packages out there that are worth it. The LED package, I don't know. I might skip that if I were to order another one of these. Anyway, hopefully this has been helpful to you guys. I appreciate you watching, and if you have questions, as always, leave them below. Thanks guys, and we'll talk to you later.